Whenever I watch truly talented Asian chefs cook in the wok, it is amazing how hot they have those woks. You know, they have the big wok burners and there are flames going around. They throw in the meat and they go dum 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 and out. I don't know whether it goes dum dum dum, but it sort of dances, doesn't it? They talk about the breath of the wok, it sort of dances. Now, I'm not that talented with wok cooking, I have to be honest, and when I want to do a stir fry, I tend to find, not always, but I tend to find I often overcook the meat. So I've sort of come up with this slightly different style of cooking red meat when I do a stir fry. And what I do is I grab a couple of really nice thick steaks, which I've got there. Now this is enough for 4 to 6 people. And they're about 200 grams each, and I trim off all the fat and sinew, or get the butcher to do it for me. And I then just seal it in some hot oil. And when I say seal it, I mean that literally, I seal it. And when it is sealed, I pull it out, then I do my stir fry, I make my sauce, I leave the beef to rest for a while, and then I cut it up either into slices or cubes and throw it back into the stir fry. Now, it is not traditional, it is a Hewitson version, but I must admit, I have seen a slightly similar thing done by a Vietnamese restaurant in San Francisco called Slanted Door, which is famous for some of its wonderful food, and they do something rather similar. I'm not saying exactly this, but they do something very similar with a beef dish, with very good quality beef. So I'm not alone, and I didn't steal the idea from them because I've been doing this for years, but I did see it in a magazine recently. Right, the sauce, 1 cup of chicken stock, 2 tablespoons of hoisin, if you can get it out. That's what drives me mad of hoisin. Sometimes it comes out, other times it's 3 hours later, you're still trying to get the blessed stuff out. Well, there's one, sort of. That's about 2, isn't it? I think so. And then 2 teaspoons of corn flour, 2 good teaspoons of corn flour. That's the thickening agent. And you just whisk that up really well. That's what we're waiting for our steaks to cook. Not the nicest colour I've ever seen in my life, is it? Sort of puce, isn't it? Is that puce? Something like it. All right, let's turn our steaks over. On this pan just lately, you know how pans sometimes start to stick? For some reason, this needs a new seasoning. You know how you season pans, but I better do that fairly soon. Now I put a nice crust onto that side. We'll cook it reasonably briefly on the other side. And then, as I said, we'll pull it out and we'll leave it to rest. Now I've just got a few vegetables here because I'm not going to be doing all these steaks. But I've got some sliced baby carrots, some red capsicum, some red onion. I've also got some ginger and garlic. But what you definitely could do is add lots of greens at the end. So you'll see when the greens could go in. So I'm just, as I said, doing a real simple one today. But you can add those greens at some stage. All right, let's just pull that out, rest it on our bench. Now, that's got to do with the fact that I want my steaks to be fairly undercooked, because you know me. I like things that are pretty rare, so I'm taking them out pretty under. Now, we just throw those things into the pan, leaving all those wonderful juices in there, because that will add some wonderful flavour to this dish. And if I can find my garlic press, which is right there in front of me, I'll throw that in as well. I'll also throw a decent amount of freshly grated ginger. And keep in mind, look, guys, if you love chilli and stuff, into that hoisin mix you could put some chilli, put some sambal paste or just some fresh chilli sliced very finely. You know, so you've got your variations. You can add lots of fresh herbs to it if you want to. I'm keeping it real simple today. I'm keeping it real simple with the vegetables in this sense. These are ones that are available all year round. So the greens can go in later on if you like. And we're just going to saute this, scrape up all those nice brown bits which will add some lovely flavour to the sauce. And make sure we don't have all the ginger in one spot like I've got at this moment. And then we throw this in. And we're going to cook that down. to thicken. Now you've got the corn flour in, which is going to thicken it anyway, but it's like any flour product, you actually have to cook that, otherwise you get a raw flavour. So we will cook that, I would say, 4 or 5 minutes. And if you feel it's getting too thick, just add a little bit more of the stock. Right, I have added just a smidgen more stock, and now let's have a taste. Just see if we need anything else in the sauce. You know, you sometimes could need some seasoning because there's not a lot of seasoning in hoisin. No, it's nice. But I would put a little seasoning, but I also would put smallest amount of soy. And I know it seems weird, but a little bit of salt does need it. But apart from that, it's got nice flavour, just enough hoisin to give it, you know, a little bit of bite. Now, the steak itself, cubed, sliced, don't care. We will slice it today. Now, as I said, I want it rare, so I've only cooked this to blue, because once I put it back in, it's obviously going to cook quite quickly, quite a lot more. So keep that in mind. You know, if you like it medium, you'd cook it to medium rare. That's the way you go. I want it rare, as I said. Alrighty. Now spread it out so that not all together. Actually, I'll grab the tongs for that. This is when you start swearing if you find you haven't cut it properly. Not that I'd ever swear. Like this. Haven't cut it from... I shouldn't have said that. That was tempting fate, wasn't it? We'll also add some chopped coriander. Just give it a bit of freshness. You could, instead of that, throw in some chopped spring onions, or, as I said before, you could throw in some green veg about now. And we're going to be very close now. All right, what we will now do is just wander over here and just grab some rice from the rice cooker. Nice fluffy rice. Look at that, beautiful. And that beef will be definitely ready to my taste. And let's just go back, turn off the heat. Gee, I got a bit excited with the rice, obviously. My kid, he likes lots of rice. Just grab our spoon. Make sure we get lots of those veggies on the top. And plenty of that sauce. And a little bit more fresh coriander over the top of that. Pick up that bit of carrot. Drop it 19 times, eventually get it on top. Grab my paper towels, which I've lost. Oh, goodness, guys, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to use my tea towel. Right, a dead easy, fail-safe stir-fry. Well, it's sort of a stir-fry. Beautiful flavours, really will be, and you can't mess this up. Yes, you can. You can mess it up if you don't buy a decent piece of beef. This time I used porterhouse. You could use rump. Of course you could use fillet if you've just won the Tats Lotto, but you have to use decent beef for this. Now, don't ask me where the idea for this recipe came from, because I can't remember, but it was a vague idea that I saw in a magazine somewhere, so I have varied it for sure. But the idea of roasted pumpkin and smoked salmon sauce for pasta does sound a little unusual. But first of all, we'll get the pasta one. I've got some linguine, just one packet, and I'll put it over here if you don't mind. It gives me a little bit more room up the front. You know the story. Lots of boiling water, throw the pasta in all at once. Put your top back on. Bring the water back to the boil as fast as possible. and you will have perfect pasta. Well, you better have. Now, the sauce itself, I'm just putting some olive oil in that pot. Now, what I've got over here, as you can see, is about 1 kilo of pumpkin. Now, a really good pumpkin, like a Queensland Blue or something like that, just cut it into wedges, take out the seeds, and then roast it 180 degrees, about 20 minutes until it's really tender. Now, the whole thing about it, don't use a butternut. I want something with real flavour. To that pot with the oil in, I'm going to add 1 red onion and 1 stalk of celery, both of them diced reasonably well, a clove of garlic, and we're just going to saute this until it's tender. So this is the base for our sauce. And oops, we try not to throw them all over the side. Well, we try not to. Now let's have a look at our pasta. Can you see from there, Rob? Are you all right there? Because I'll just show you. Now that it's back boiling, what you do is you just get your tongs in there and you just break it up a bit. Sorry that I've done it over the back, but it gives me more room over here to do this. And the main thing of breaking it up, that will make sure it doesn't stick together. And now you don't even have to put the top back on. You just leave it to cook for about 11 minutes. That's what it said on the packet. I'm a great advocate of taking notice of what it says on the packet. Check it after 10, admittedly, but they normally have it pretty darn right. Now, just while that's happening, what I will do is grab my small knife and we will just peel this pumpkin. Just take the skin off, which is a pretty simple thing once it's been roasted. If it doesn't come off by hand, which it doesn't seem to want, oh yes, it's working now. Just throw that in there as it comes off. I think I will cut it because it seems to be taking away too much of the flesh, which is not what I want. It defeats the whole purpose, doesn't it? So just break it up a bit and throw it into that pot. And just break that up, throw it in, pull off that bit of skin that I left behind. And then we're in business. And we have made a right mess of ourselves. So I will just grab a paper towel, clean up, and then let's just have a look at what's happening here. So we've got our veggies there. We've now got our pumpkin in, which we can mash up a bit. Doesn't matter because I am going to process this later on down the track. What I now add is a couple of cups of stock, vegetable or chicken, depending on whether you're doing a vegetarian version or not. So I don't mind which you do. Some ground pepper and some salt. And we then just cook that until that pasta is ready, making sure that all those vegetables are really tender. Now, the other thing is you can add a bit more stock, but remember, you're not making a soup here, guys. You are making a sauce, but you've got quite a lot of vegetables. So if you feel it needs a little bit more stock, you can do that. You have my permission. But the main thing is I want all those vegetables very tender. Now this bit is optional, but a little bit of cream just brings the sauce together when you blend it, or process it I should say. There's tons. Also some fresh parsley. This gives a bit of freshness to that sauce. And then we just turn that off, mix that through, and as I said, we're going to throw it into the processor. And I'll find my ladle. I know I've got it there somewhere. Rubbish everywhere today. I really have. So I'll just move a few things, just for no reason at all. And we'll just ladle that in there. Don't know whether we'll need all that. I think I might have got a bit carried away. It doesn't sound like me, does it? Can pretend the rest of it's a soup. A very thick soup, admittedly. Alrighty. Now let's just give that a bit of a whiz. I don't want to give it too much. I don't want it to be too pureed. So we'll just think about how well that's done. Now, the pasta itself should be ready, so I'll just grab that out. Some of it, I should say. I think I should strain it, don't you? What do you reckon? Should I strain it? I think it might be a bit easier. I've got a strainer in the sink, so excuse me for turning my back on you, but I'm just going to whack it through this, because otherwise I'm going to be there all day and you're going to get very bored with the mini-series of Huey straining pasta. So we will just put it in there. I'll grab that, throw it into my bowl, bring the bowl back over, turn the gas off. A few other things are going in it. Some parmesan, definitely. So let's just grate that in while we've got the linguine right in front of us. A decent amount, but we will put some more on top afterwards. Because this is a dish to me that needs quite a bit of pasta. And then the sauce. Let's have a look. Just have a look there, Rob. You can see what I mean about it being just roughly pureed. It's still got some texture, which to me is great. And we will throw that in. And now we'll toss it. Generous amount of the sauce. I know it seems unusual, but it has the most wonderful flavour. It really does. It's sort of that roasted pumpkin just comes through. Now, what we've also got is 200 grams of smoked salmon, which I'm just going to slice. Good Tasmanian salmon. And we just throw that through just very, very briefly, because it does cook it a bit. Gives it a nice different flavour, I must admit. But you can, if you like, just lay it on top. But just make sure you toss it through well, so you don't have 180 grams of salmon on one portion. Because that's not the idea, is it? We do like to share with our friends just a little. And then we just put a decent amount into a bowl. Making sure that we get a decent amount of salmon in each portion. Righty-ho. Last but not least, a bit more parmesan. Because as I said, this does need a fair amount. A little bit more parsley. Clean up the plate. Unusual, but real good. Trust me.
Did you know that 7 in 10 Australians carry the virus that causes cold sores? Outbreaks can be brought on by illness, tiredness or sunburn, but often there is no obvious trigger. And while you can't remove the cause of cold sores, you can help your body fight the symptoms. That's exactly where nature's own lysine can assist. It can help reduce the frequency and severity of cold sore outbreaks, and it can provide relief from symptoms if cold sores do appear. You'll find nature's own lysine at Chemist Warehouse and other leading pharmacies.
Now, if you'd like any recipes from today's show, just call us on 1902 214 995. And don't forget, visit our Cooking Club website. There's wine and food articles, my recipes, and loads of food information. Catch me at hueyscookingclub.com. That's hueyscookingclub.com.
I always love food history. In 5000 BC, that's quite a long time ago, a herdsman stored some milk in a pouch that he made from the stomach of an animal. The rennet that was still in the stomach caused cheese to be formed. I wonder whether that's true. Oh, I read it. Must be true. On that note, I'm out of here.